Today we're looking at Noodler's Blue Black. Hi, I'm Adam and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Now Noodler's Blue Black, as it sounds, is a blue-black ink. To make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, what I do is I do my writing samples. I then put the ink into a different pen for a day. I then put it into a Nemosine Singularity with a fine nib to take my notes for this video. Before we get to the writing samples, let's look at the sciencey bits. Up first is the chromatography, and I agree with Vita that I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. And what we see is a dark greenish line, and it's pushing a light green up, and then it becomes a darker green again. It's very interesting because it's blue-black, and they're accomplishing it using greens. It's very nice. The blue comes in as very light and then becomes much darker with a super dark blue line at the top. Now the one on the right I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water, and that dark green line on the bottom stays before it flees up, but not as much green flees, and it transitions to blue, and the dark blue on the top is not as big as it was. Now resistance tests are done so that we can see how well this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how difficult it might be to clean out of a pen. The swab is allowed to dry for 3 days before I test it. Looking at the highlighter, we can see that this ink does not like being highlighted. It does not like being reactivated at all, which becomes even more evident in the other chemical tests. With water, when I put the water down, I gave it only 30 seconds and blotted it up. The blue came up, leaving the black or super dark green down below. Now Pen Flush did very much the same thing, but pulling much more of it off of the page. Bleach did not wipe it out like expected. It only wiped out the blue, but left the black or super dark green black behind, which is quite interesting. For the inks I've tested, I have found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Noodler's Blue Black has a viscosity of 1.66, which you can see here is in the red, and this is a very wet ink. To find my average dry times, I use my writing samples done with the extra fine and medium nib on Clairefontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. For the inks I've tested, I have found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Noodler's Blue Black has an average dry time of 15 seconds, which makes it very normal. So while it is wet, its dry time is absolutely normal. Now let's get to the writing sample. I got this ink in sample form. And to keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's look at Clairefontaine. We get no bleeding and no ghosting. With the 1.1, we have no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. And as blue blacks go, this is very dark. Very dark. You don't really get to see much of the blue throughout this whole thing unless it's smeared or the pen is running dry. With the extra fine, we have no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. No shade at all with a blue black, and 11 seconds to dry. The medium gives us no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen. Having to adjust my gain, I apologize. No feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shading again whatsoever. 14 seconds to dry. And the scrubby shows us that we're not going to get any shading. It shows nothing here. The smear shows us we would likely recover this. Now Tomoe River. Tomoe River paper, look at that. Right there. And there. We have spots that looks like it might actually start to bleed. That if I had a wetter pen of this, it looks like it might start to bleed. Just looking at those. we have definite ghosting. Looking at the 1.1, no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. That's black. It says blue black, that looks black. With the extra fine, we have no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shading. It's a blue black, and I'm calling it black at the moment because it's almost like just not as dark a black as what was up top. But we do have a blue black. With the medium, 15 seconds to dry. With the medium, we have no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen. We do get some shading if we look at the and quick, fox, and over. So we get good shading in the medium, but it goes from very kind of a dark blue to a black. However much shading that is, from dark blue to black. 20 seconds to dry. In the scrubbies, looking at the scrubbies, you don't expect to get much shading out of this just from that part. It shows us we're not going to get a lot. And smear, there's no recovering of this once you've smeared it. Looking at Rhodia paper, we have no bleeding, no ghosting. With the 1.1, no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade, no blue to this blue black, but a lot of black. The extra fine gets us no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. 12 seconds to dry. A black of the blue black family. I'm going to harp on that with this. It's just not my favorite thing in blue blacks. 12 seconds to dry. Medium. Medium gives us no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen. A couple areas of some shading. So a little bit of personality gets to come through with some of this shading. Okay. We get it in fox. We get some in brown. We definitely get it in the. We had 16 seconds to dry. Started to write 15 because I was just under 16. And I tend to round to the nearest second. This isn't scientific testing here. Looking at the scrubby. With the extra fine, I see no color variation. But with the medium, I do get some color variation, which is what we got in the writing sample. And interestingly is the smear. It looks like the medium was writing much drier. And I was getting color variation. Where the extra fine looks like it was writing much wetter this day, and I wasn't. So a drier pen could definitely be the solution. Now I like to see what happens with these inks sometimes when we put them onto different tone papers, which is what I did here. I went to the yellow Rhodia pad. The yellow Rhodia pad gave us no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 had no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade in that black ink. Blue, black, black. Extra fine had no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, and no shading. I can't see a single spot that has shading for me. 12 seconds to dry. Looking at the medium, we have no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade, none. Not in this writing. Now when it comes to the smear or the scrubby, it looks like I should see some shade in the medium, but only slightly. So I think this is an effect of the yellow paper because we definitely saw the yellow paper. However, look at the smear. It was definitely writing wetter here. So it was writing drier and writing wetter. But I'm not seeing shading here, and I saw shade here. So I'm going to come back to the idea of the pen. It makes me wonder, because I'm writing today with a Singularity that is quite dry. And if I look at the extra fines, just at the extra fines, on the Singularity, and this is Rhodia, and I put it with the Rhodia sample, we definitely get a lot more color variation with a very dry pen. So what this means here is while there's a ton of I'm not seeing color variation, and in the sample, when we had it dry, when we had a drier medium, we got color variation, but I'm writing with a dry fine today, and I'm getting decent color variation. So use a dry pen with this. No
that recovery, that's a 50-50 on that smear test. So then I went to Original Crown Mill. Original Crown Mill, that's a scrubby, so I'm not sure if it's coming through, but I see a spot, and a spot where it's wanting to bleed. Wanting to bleed. You can see the dot coming, but it's not quite there. With the 1.1, we have no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. This is very, very, very dark as a blue-black. Almost black there. The extra fine gives us no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. 9 seconds to dry. The medium, no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. 12 seconds to dry. So not much difference here. Which is interesting when we look at the smears, because the smears are about the same. So that's where I find some of the dry times interesting when I compare them to the smear. A lot of tests start getting, like all of my writing tests are done long before I actually recorded the first one. So when I come back and I see, and having had all those experiences, I start seeing some correlations between things that I didn't take notes on at the time because I didn't even know that they existed to take notes on. Now I do. Looking at the scrubbies, I don't expect color variation because there is no color variation in these scrubbies. And the smear, you probably could recover it, but if you're writing on Original Crown Mill paper in correspondence and you smear real bad, you might want to go ahead and replace that little piece of paper. That's all that I have for the writing sample today.
Instead of finding inks that look like Noodler's Blue Black, I would prefer to find an ink that would complement its color on the page. And I thought a very nice dusty red would work here. So I chose Birmingham Pen Company's Duquesne Incline Station Red. I know I'm butchering this. Before I give my opinion on this ink, I would ask if you've enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. And if it's your first time here, I would invite you to subscribe. So what do I think of Noodler's Blue Black? I don't like blue blacks that are just blue or that are just black. This blue black to me is much more of a black going down with very little blue showing through. I would love to see blue with really black shading on my blue black inks, or a black halo. I like to see both of the colors, not one, blue or black. This one's much too dark and looks just black to me. So I'm not a particular fan of this blue black. Thanks for watching.